live now, so you can.
Okay, well, I will officially call the meeting to order and get right into the announcements, which I only have one tonight, which is, as is our tradition in Irvington, we are once again having the Thanksgiving Day dinner delivery to the elderly and the less fortunate, as organized by the Irvington Rec Department. It's one of our great traditions here in Irvington, and I'm glad we're able to continue it during COVID. It might even be more important this year, and I understand there's a record level of need this year. And Larry Lonke, do you know if we have enough volunteers? I know we could always use some more money, but
Right. Well, I'm just reading a note. Joe said that there's still time to make a donation or to sign up to make a delivery. So I would contact Rec if you're interested in either of those things.
Great. So you can find it on the website. It's jarchino@irvingtonny.gov, or you can reach out to myself or Larry Schaffler, and we'll be happy to get the email to the right place. But yeah, you can email me at bsmith@irvingtonny.gov. Anyone else have any announcements? Otherwise, I will move right on to correspondence. A lot of the correspondence tonight is regarding opening Matheson Park. We had letters on that subject from Tom Thacker, Deborah Flood, Melissa Jones, Laura Spelden, David Zweibel, Benjamin Gold, Jorge Magan, Arlena Borgo, Patricia Mulvey, Sarah Cox and Peter Bernstein, Katerina Manoff, and Gloria Leahy. If anybody watched our last work session, all five trustees expressed a willingness to look at opening the parks. We've asked, we need some more information. We're looking at how other parks have managed it. And we have a goal of wrapping up and getting all the information we need by, January. So we can include any, monetary needs from opening the park in the budget process. So as far as timetable, it's actually fairly tight, but we're anxious to get all the information we need so we can make a decision on the parks. But I think again, all five of us are interested in opening the parks. So now we just need to figure out the details and or opening the park, I should say. We just need the details and move forward from there. We did have letters not related to the parks. Hang on one second. First one was from Julie Schrader. A week and a half ago, while the Trump train barreled down Main Street, my car was hemmed in at Shell Station at the top of the hill. As we sat there blocked by an Irvington police car, we noticed as the officer inside smiled, waved, and gave many thumbs up to the people flying their Trump flags and honking their horns and screaming out their windows. I was truly perplexed as to why a civil servant would not maintain a poker face as they do with other demonstrations in town, and would seemingly support and encourage people who mean to deepen the fear of citizens in the town they are sworn to protect. I was disappointed and discouraged. Equally so, while I was stuck on 287 yesterday, behind a larger train that has stopped traffic. Meanwhile, there's no police presence to be seen. Not that that was Irvington's responsibility, but it adds to my worry about tomorrow, which was election day and the weeks following the election. I'd like someone to answer this email and give me a sense of how the town's police force is meant to behave during these moments of aggression. I'm curious to know if the officers are indeed allowed to register support for movement one way or another. I'd also like to know the town's plan for election day and beyond if we find ourselves surrounded by groups of Trump supporters engaging in fear-mongering and possible voter suppression. Also, I want to know why some of the DPW workers simply refuse to wear masks while working together in town. Are these members of our town infrastructure not meant to set the best example for all citizens, most importantly our children? Thank you in advance for your response. We did respond to Julie back before Election Day and explained that, no, people are not, the police department should not, be supportive of any political movement, regardless of what it is. My understanding is that they all understand that. I had actually spoken to the chief and the lieutenants about that, in the weeks before the election. So I find it, disappointing and that they saw that type of behavior. I do think that there is a bit of a fine line between sometimes waving to your friend and seeing that as support. But, I think that we have to make sure that our police do not cross that gray line. I'm happy to say that Election Day went off well. I'm happy to say that in the days and weeks since, things have been, very calm in the city, if not in the village, if not in some cities. But overall, I think things went well here, and we all moved ahead. Next up is a letter from David Rubin. I'm writing about, it's actually, this is regard to our, to the hearing later on. So maybe I'll skip that one for now in case, you know what, maybe I'll read it. It's kind of short. I'm writing about the public hearing to discuss the local law on the zoning to create North Broadway mixed use district. I do not understand how we got to this point. Who is asking the board to consider a change? The agenda did not specify that. Is it someone who is truly concerned about the village, as someone who is truly concerned about the village and is making a proposal that somehow is keeping with the Irvington Comprehensive Plan? Or is it someone who is merely looking for a business or real estate opportunity without regard to maintaining the charm and character and safety of our town? The land has been a topic of discussion for quite some time now. I don't know why we ever moved away from the original concept, which developed a modest number of single family homes, perhaps 10 of 12, perhaps 2 or 3 specifically designed for low income residents. That proposal would bring in tax revenue, preserve the ambiance of the village, create no significant strains on schools or other municipal services. In addition, Irvingtonians have made strong effort to protect ourselves from COVID. As a result, Irvington is one of the lowest infection rates anywhere in Westchester. Any large scale development at this time would put that hard-earned performance at risk. At a minimum, the proposal needs to be delayed into next year when time and COVID issues, as well as our national political order, are better understood. But in truth, it should be permanently rejected. Thank you, David Rubin. Next is from Michael Hanna, also about the rezoning. I did make mention of this letter during our work session, but he firmly supports and encourages the Board of Trustees initiative, particularly because he actually says, thank you for the multi-year process rezone Broadway for multifamily housing and medical offices. It's in keeping with similar uses on Broadway and other areas of Irvington. It offers a mix of needed market rate, moderate income, and affordable housing. It's an important step to maintaining and improving the economic health and vitality of our community. Residents of future multifamily housing are family members, civil servants, community volunteers, customers of local businesses, and contributors to the life of Irvington. He talks about a video from NPR called Code Switch, called Housing Segregation in Everything. He provided a link. It superbly explains the negative impact from programs begun during the New Deal to today that led to redlining and race-based housing covenants that reinforce segregated housing, poorer healthcare, and lower family wealth for many people of color. Village of Irvington, like so many American communities, falls squarely in this history. He talks about how the community is less economically and racially diverse, talked about how housing stocks changed. He goes on to say he hopes that we're close to improving this. And he talks about, some of the bigger details on, what AMI is and things like that. He would urge us to adjust the sweet spot for AMI to 100%, which is 120,000 in income limit, to 120%, which is 144,000 instead of 120 and 150. So that was kind of in line with kind of what the housing committee was saying last week. We were still working on that, obviously. That was Michael Hanna's letter. I will mention that the open letter to Matheson Park, there's an open letter regarding Matheson Park that had 186 signatures. And then we have one more letter from Katarina Medina. And it covers several different topics. She'd like to follow up for the meeting on November 2nd. She'd like to disagree with your plan to build multifamily housing in Irvington, as it would change the character of the neighborhood and impose even higher tax burden on single family house owners here in Irvington due to different approach to taxation, rental value versus property value, and miscalculation about the expected number of children per unit. I do not believe that 0.2 children per unit is a realistic number because people move into Irvington for its schools. Thus, as rightfully noticed by another member of the public, our schools will get a significant influx of students and therefore have to expand their budget, places an even heavier burden on us, Irvington taxpayers. Irvington schools already have accommodated about 10% of financially disadvantaged students, already quite high number of students for us to support. In Scarsdale, on the other hand, 0% of financially disadvantaged students, which allows them to concentrate on the quality of the programs instead. Hence the difference in passing scores and school ranking and property values. She urges the board to look at this from the perspective of taxpayers and parents who live in single family dwellings, pay astronomical bills, and have to raise their children. No one helps us with our duties, hence the conversation of imposing even higher burden on us is not proper. As to the benefits of diversity, we already have a sizable population on financial assistance in our village and in our schools besides ethnic diversity, and also a large special needs program which attracts students from outside of the district. Last but not least, local residents moved to Irvington for its luscious greenery. If we would have loved the concrete jungle, we could have stayed in the city with its crime level. Needless to say, this would devalue our properties just like happened in Yonkers. I pretty much disagree with everything she said. The one factual thing I'll mention is that while it's true that condos and single-family homes are taxed differently, this will be an increase to the overall revenue of the village, not changing to condos, which would put a, which would not change the pie and would expand it, would make their slice smaller and make everyone else pay more. This would be extra income for the schools, the county, the town, and the village. So that's all the correspondence. Again, thank you everyone for contacting us. I will now open up to public comment. If Larry wants to see if anybody is looking to talk.
You can raise your hand, or if you're on a telephone, it's *9. All right.
You have two, Larry, looks like.
Yep. Leola. You just have to. You're good.
So I just wanted to something that I didn't get to on time, and it's regarding all this. And I have a few other points that I don't think if you might be willing to hear this. I would say have said I lived 2 blocks from Mount.
I can't understand you, Leola.
Hey, Leola.
Leola is a bad sound.
Yeah. Yeah, it's coming through.
Yeah, you have very distorted audio, Leola.
Maybe let's try again. Yeah, boy, I haven't heard that one before. That's very unusual. All right, we'll try this one again. Let's see, Kathy Sears. Kathy?
Can you hear me?
You sound good, Kathy.
I can't get on my laptop, so I'm on my tiny little cell phone. So here's what I wanted to share with you just briefly. And so the Irvington Gazette of July 1932 offers us all a historical perspective that I'd like to share with you. And the topic of the article is called "Out of Towners Make the Most of Local Beach Park." The Matheson Beach Park, understood to be used solely for village residents only, has brought about much comment due to the use of the park proper by out-of-town residents. This dissenting note by local residents need not apply, for as it has been said, that out-of-towners are crowding out our residents. Now, there is plenty of room for everyone that so far has been attracted by the comforts of the local beach. For after all, these neighboring people are human and should be accorded a welcome in their visit here. It has been learned that persons from neighboring localities do not crowd the park, as in most cases take advantage of the use of the park on Sunday, at a time when they are most likely to be noticed by other people than other days of the week. And so I just wanted to conclude. I had already signed the other letter, but I just wanted to say here we are 88 years later, and we're still discussing this issue. And except that we now know there's no protective deed. And we also know that at some point, I fear, we're going to find ourselves in a litigious situation because of arbitrary entry or non-entry to quote unquote others. And so I feel like it's time to do it right, open up the park. And that's all I really need to say. Thank you for letting me share this little bit of history from July 22, 1932. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will mention that Sarah Cox and Peter Bernstein's letter also had some interesting historical tidbits from the Irvington Gazette.
Okay, Tom?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So I'm not going to go on and on and on because I already have gone on and on and on about this. But the one thing that I would like to point out is what we have been advocating for is to change local law to and open up all the parks. And I know that the focus really has been on Matheson, but local law too restricts all of the parks except for, at this point, Irvington Woods and Scenic Hudson. So that's really what the letter that was signed by numerous people, 180 plus, and many of us individually who have written letters, that's what we are advocating for. That's all I want to say.
From the research we did, I guess about a year ago now, it looks like there is only one park that has a hard restriction, which was Halsey Pond, I believe. That's actually in the deed. But we will, of course, double check that, Tom. But
Okay.
I mean, I think the board is willing to open any parks that we can legally open. We'd like to do that. We just got to figure out, the best way so for everyone to have the most enjoyment out of it. So,
Okay, great. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Lisa?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Like Tom, I'm going to be very brief. I just wanted to thank the board for your attention to the issue of the parks and for receiving the open letter, and just to say into the record that we had 186 people signing, of whom 144 were village residents and 42 were just school district residents. And people were really passionate about the issue. They didn't just sign. In many cases, they provided comments and a lot of kind of personal experiences they've had and their families have had with the park. So I know I've been very moved by the outpouring of support, and I just appreciate that the board has read this and sort of, I hope they've taken it to heart. You guys have taken it to heart, as I can hear. And I also want to just second Tom's point, having heard, Brian, what you said, but just to second the point that we're looking to open any parks that can be open. So again, the focus has been on Matheson, but we really want to see all of our parks be unrestricted. So whatever is the legal mechanism to get there, that's what we're hoping to see. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Try the Yola again.
Yeah, hold on here. Okay, Leola.
Okay, I'm on a different device. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Much more like yourself and less like Darth Vader now. So.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that before. So I just wanted to just point out a couple of things in terms of opening the parks, and some of what I'm about to say is kind of storyish, like many of the others you've heard with similar arguments. But I had a few other thoughts that I thought might be useful to you, especially now since you're feeling like you'd like to move forward with making at least Matheson Park and hopefully the others public as well. And just a few other food for thought as you make your way through that. So I have lived 2 blocks from Matheson Park for 25 years. So I wouldn't really be advocating to open it if I thought it would really pose a safety risk. I've enjoyed the small mecca of sorts that happens on clear days, people coming into the park at sunset to enjoy the beautiful sky and peaceful time in the park. I've often observed throughout the day people who have gotten takeout from Bazaar, Giordane's, Mediterranean's Light, Red Barn, Chutney, MP Taverna, and other merchants in the village. People enjoy, their lunch breaks there from work in our parks, nannies, parents, everybody, single people, couple, groups of friends, family, all ages enjoying the park. Many of which actually are not residents. I don't know everybody, but I feel quite certain they haven't been. Because the park, it really isn't usually attended except during the day during summer. And so, of course, it's locked at night. And that's one thing I wanted to kind of reinforce. I really like that practice that we have. I think that would be very good to continue, whether it's public or not. And Matheson Park, again, has generally been unattended. So essentially, it's been kind of like a public park, and we don't see mass criminal outsiders overuse of the parks, adding to our tax burden for maintenance or anything like that, that some of the counter arguments that have been made. So my feeling is it would save money. We'd no longer have to pay people to manage to stay at the gate or manage the park process or anything like that. I was kind of thinking about, in terms of Matheson Park and the fireworks, like too many people coming, and I don't know if anything could be reserved for, just residents and friends and family of residents for that particular event. I don't know, I was just kind of thinking about that. And and then another vote for just observing diversity in public parks that I have for so many years, people of all shapes, colors, sizes, ages, ability. It's a healthy vision of humanity, I think, and it just I just really favor our doing that in our parks in Irvington. Also wanted to point out again, in terms of people bringing takeout into our parks, from our local merchants, I really think having our parks open helps our local economy, our Main Street businesses and stuff. People use our gas station, convenience station more, our shops and restaurants when our parks are open, I feel. I do not favor, however, adding any more car parking at any of our parks. So making it public, I really don't want that part of our tax dollars to be, creating more parking spaces, particularly with, for example, Halsey Pond and whatnot. So I do favor, though, adding bike racks so that people could come to our parks with their bicycles.
Thank you, Leola.
Okay, Arlene.
Hi. I guess what I want to say, in echoing what everyone else has said about opening the parks, I think that we have, as a community, sort of we have this narrative going on about Irvington being a welcoming place, and I think that the restriction on the park really sort of goes against that. And one of the things that I worry a lot about is selective enforcement. And I wrote to Brian about something that I observed. All the days are going into each other, but I went to Dow's Lane pickup to pick up my daughter, and I observed a police officer really asking the only Latino family to move their car in an area where every other car almost was illegally parked. And I observed the officer sort of just ask them to move and loop around and come back to them and ask them to move. And I know that family well. And it was very disappointing to observe that, but I think that is quite a common worry of mine when you have sort of rules in place, because rules are meant to be enforced, and the issue is when they're enforced in a way that's not equitable. And I think for a lot of people, the issue that I've had with Matheson Park is, having someone sit in front of Matheson Park, you always have this issue of selective enforcement, and I think that is just not a good representation of the community that we are striving to become and to be, and to show people that we are there. So if, I really encourage, I would love to see those, that restriction gone today. I mean, hopefully this is not going to go past January, but, I find that I forget when it was that I went to the public hearing. And I think since that time, people who don't know about the restriction are sort of appalled when they hear about it. People who have moved into Irvington, when they learn of that restriction, it's kind of appalling. And then, the other thing that I mentioned in my letter, which is I know that people hate when the word racism is used. And I think, a lot of people that I spoke to had some issue with signing the letter, the group letter. because, you know, we don't want to recognize what's sort of like right in our faces. But a lot of these restrictions come, you know, from 1932, whenever they come, they really have, they're rooted in racism, because they're rooted in keeping people out of the community, and the people that they're keeping out of this community are perceived to be non-white. So I really encourage you guys to embrace the fact that a lot of these policies are rooted in racism, and continuing them then just contributes to that. So, you know, I would like to see them gone as soon as possible. So otherwise, you know, we'll all be having this conversation meeting after meeting, as everyone here, I think, is probably tired of having the same conversation. But anyways, thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Okay, Elaine?
You're still on mute, Elaine.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is David Twyvell, not Elaine. Thank you. I wrote a letter and I signed the petition, so I will let those things speak for themselves, and in agreement with the previous commenters on use of the park. The only thing I would like to add about that is I feel a lot of the non-resident use of our park comes from employees of businesses in Irvington and homeowners in Irvington. The reason some of these people find out about our parks is there are gardeners, there are repairmen, there are people who work in the restaurants and other places and on Bridge Street. They come, they see it, they say, oh, this is nice. Maybe they eat lunch there. And maybe they'll bring their family there. So I feel particularly bad when, you know, we're not letting the help use the park. That just seems really discriminatory to me. So in any case, please open the parks. The second thing, Brian, you read the letter from that one individual commenting about the development. And I appreciate your comments on that, and I agree with that. I would like to add that the letter notes that there is diversity in our school system, but what is very apparent to me, both of my children attended K through 12 in the school system, and we have some diversity in the school system. The majority of that diversity is not in Irvington. It's in Tarrytown, the Tarrytown portion of the district. And I actually quizzed both of my kids about who were their diverse friends and associates that they played sports with, et cetera, et cetera. All but one lived in Tarrytown. And most of them lived in that one development that's near the Stop and Shop. So I would appreciate, I noticed in the last board meeting that you did comparatives with other developments in Irvington. I think it might be important to do the comparative with that development in Tarrytown, because obviously the affordability of that development provides diversity and a diverse clientele for those rentals is based on the price that they are paying. And I would hope that this particular property that we're developing, I see as the only feasible property in all of our future to have a affordable, diverse housing place in Irvington. If we don't do it here, it's not going to happen anywhere else. There's no other available land of any size, and particularly in a location that's accessible to public transportation. This is the spot for it if there ever was a spot. To see that developed as single-family housing would be, tantamount to excluding a lot of people. So thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to comment. Thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay. Sarah?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, hello. I was at the meeting last November, not last year. I don't even remember when it was, but I spoke then, and I'm back. Hi. I guess I don't have anything grand or planned, and even all that grand to say that's planned, other than, I guess, just a general feeling of confusion that we're sort of here again, I guess. I mentioned that this was happening to somebody in the area, and, what he said was that, he'll try and make it, but this has been going on for so long that, kind of feels a little discouraged. And that was just so hard to hear for me.
What topic are you talking about? Sorry.
About the parks, about opening the parks.
Well, I think part of the reason it's taken so long is that the parks have been closed.
Yeah.
So long, and then we had COVID, and now, the parks won't be open again until May for residents, non-residents, or people from Mars. So, to me, we're working through this as diligently as possible. I'm sorry it's not quick enough for you, but
no, it's not the COVID issue. I think it's more around the whole debate around whether to open them or not open them, not around.
But I don't think we've really, has there been any debate from our board? I know there's been debate from residents, but
yeah, no, it's the resident debate, not about the board. It's
Okay.
around
Well,
whether.
I think that's also, I think when people say, one of the biggest things is money, right? So we haven't gotten any budgetary implications of opening yet. So that's probably the last big piece. So when people say this is going to cost a lot of money, or it's not going to cost a lot of money, we need to find that out. So I think until, as a board, we have to kind of
the frustration I'm speaking of, and I think the other person is speaking of, is not about you guys. It's about, I think, just the residents of the town, and this back and forth debate over opening them, not opening them, and my frustration around that debate of this what feels like since I moved here, this debate over this issue. And what's frustrating for me, and this is not frustration at you guys, this is frustration over the debate, which is around, the main thing that I'm hearing in the opposition is around it. If we open the parks, so there's going to be more crime or drugs, when there's really no evidence to support that. And it's both frustrating, and it's both incredibly insulting that there is that assumption being made. And to go back to a couple of comments before me around the issue of race and the issue of targeting people of color, I think it's very interconnected to that. And so it is my hope that our town can rise above the climate that's been going on in our country, especially around this exclusive kind of feeling of the haves and the have-nots. And it's insidious, it's poisonous, and it's really awful for that to be an element that I feel is existing within this whole parks discussion. It's hard for me to wrap my head around any justification really of having a closed park. And it really bothers me that I have to even explain to my kids like why their friends in another town can't come play in a playground with them. Like it really just doesn't make sense to me. So it is my hope that you guys can continue to look at this with an open mind and look at it at like this is like a microcosm of a much larger systemic issue that's going on. That's really, I believe, deeply concerning in our country and even in our town.
Okay. I mean, I do think that the part of the conversation that's probably bothered you the most has bothered us the most. And I think we immediately, and I only remember really one person who wrote, I think, 2 letters to, kind of, there's going to be drug dealers and homeless people and all that, crap, basically. And I think we called it out the night of the letter that we didn't believe in any of it. And that would not paint our decision on this at all. She sent the first letter, I believe, before we knew if the deed restricted us at all, which was what we had been led to believe since, I was a child and being turned away because I lived in Penny Bridge in Tarrytown and wasn't welcome in the parks. So I think that, I think that that's just a very, very small minority that feels that it's, that I think is overtly racist and thinks that it's going to be crime from people other than residents. I do think that there is a larger group of people that just don't want change. And I think we see it with just about anything we do. This has always been this way since 1940 or whatever it is. So they don't want it to change. And when I talk to some of them about it, I ask them what they're afraid of. They don't really have tangible things. They just don't want change. And I think I'm more sympathetic to them than the people that, say they were going to be in danger or that type of thing. And I think that the part of the argument that is the part that we're still working with is how would we manage this and what's the best way to manage this to ensure that residents don't have a bad experience. And I think that to me is still very germane to this whole discussion. I think it's easy to draw lines and say that this is a racist, construct. And I think there's a lot of zoning and things that are much more racist than necessarily this park being closed. But I can definitely see why this is a symbol of that bad time in our country that is continuing to exist in 2020. So I think, for all those reasons and for practical reasons, and as well as just letting people enjoy a beautiful park that, is to me one of the most beautiful parks in Westchester County. And, it's not that used and all. There's a million reasons for it and only a handful against it, in my opinion. And, I think that's why as a board, we're all, looking forward to moving this process forward and figuring out the, what we have to do to manage this properly. So it's best for residents and potentially non-residents. So.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Robert?
Hi, my name is Robert Dottin. I have lived in Irvington since 1987 and had difficulty, I must say, finding accommodation in Irvington when I moved in 1987. I've had problems at times getting in access to the park, but sometimes that was because, for instance, with the Westchester Language Club, which I'm a member of, they've asked me to help them before. And people who had made those attempts, white people who had made those attempts before were quite successful. I found a lot of difficulty doing that and then got some help from Janice Silverberg, and it worked out eventually. But it left that thought in my mind again, that this might be something that was related to what happened to me in 1987. And I feel that any Black person who comes to Irvington, my kids have grown up here. My son graduated from Irvington High School. But I think that you can't ignore the fact that this is in the mind of everyone, minds of everyone, the people who are objecting to it and the people who are in favor of it. It's something that's there and it's unnecessary. I think that there are a lot aspects of Irvington now that are quite redeeming and quite admirable. They've approved Winnie Bagwell building, erecting a monument to the enslaved people who lived here, and many other aspects of Irvington, which I see as very progressive. And I think it would be valuable to continue that in the future and to really set an example for the people who not only live in Westchester, but in the nation. And so I would urge you to continue in that direction instead of taking the easy route, which means doing nothing or maintaining the park as a sort of a bastion of Irvington privacy.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your comments.
Okay,
And thank you for being here tonight. And Karen?
hold on. Karen,
Oh, Karen dropped off.
she put her hand down, it looks like, yeah. Okay,
Yeah, but we have another chance towards the end of the program to have more public comment. Otherwise, I will move on to consent agenda. Anyone have any questions? Otherwise, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next is the continuation of the public hearing to consider a local law amending the zoning code to create the North Broadway Mixed Use District. Update here is we had I thought a very productive work session with the housing committee, where we got their input, a lot more for us to work through. Tonight we hope to continue to listen to anyone who has thoughts on the new proposed zoning. Looking at the calendar, we'll probably have another work session to discuss comments received from the housing committee and others at our next work session, which is, I believe, on December 16th. So it'll probably be cold, very cold, but we'll probably be online anyway. So we just, I guess, basically, if no one has any comments, if Marianne, I don't know if you have any updates or anything, but otherwise we'll open it up for, I know Taylor has something he wants to share. I know David Smith wanted to say something, but I'm not sure if that's tonight or if that'll be at the work session or what. But
okay, so no one on the board then? Okay. All right, hold on a second here. Taylor?
Good evening. Can you all hear me?
hey, Taylor, we can hear you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the Board of Trustees. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. Taylor Palmer with Cuddy and Fader on behalf of the Maxon property. This is going to be very brief. I sound like the prior speakers, but we just wanted to touch base tonight and note for the record, at the village board's last meeting, they indicated that Mr. Smith will be permitted to make a formal presentation at this board's December 7th regular meeting. So we wanted to specifically comment on the proposed multifamily use. So we understand, of course, that the housing committee was appearing at your last work session. So we did just want to note and confirm that Mr. Smith will be able, he is joining me this evening on the call, but having heard the board's request loud and clear during our last presentation from our November 2nd letter, we want to make sure that we submit formal written correspondence in advance of that December 7th meeting so that you all have time to digest it and review it, so that then Dave can bring it home with the planning lingo that goes over my head. So with that, we wanted to wish you all a happy and healthy Thanksgiving. We'll see you next month. We did just want to confirm that Mr. Smith will have the opportunity to speak at the December meeting.
For one Smith to another, he absolutely can. No relation, by the way.
Shocking. Okay, any other?
Any other comments on the North Broadway Mixed Use District at this time? Otherwise, obviously, the meeting or the public hearing is staying open.
No.
Yeah. Caller, someone calling in on a Galaxy Note.
All right, hold on. Okay.
Yep, loud and clear.
We can
Yes.
hear you.
Okay, Francis Gowdy here, 119 North Broadway, directly opposite the property that you very much want to densify. I'm not fully cognizant of the driving force other than Maxon owners profiting. What is the push? Initially, it was going to be old folks' homes, hotels, commercial establishments. Now it's densification, not in character with the rest of Irvington. I'm just wondering what is driving this. So I'd like the trustees to answer this. The whole thing seems suspect. It just goes from bad to worse. You now want to create sort of a Hooverville along Broadway with densification not seen elsewhere in the village. So this new thrust just seemed to have come out of the dark, out of nowhere. And it cloaks itself in soppy sort of posturing regarding diversity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I kind of deeply suspect it has more to do with what the level of profit that can be extracted from that property. Can anyone disavow this?
Sure. I think what you'll find is that the Maxon property in particular is very opposed. So you guys finally agree on something. So they do not like our plan at all. They would much rather have assisted living and other uses. This board, kind of similar to what I forget who was talking, said is if we don't, I guess it was David Zweibel, if this isn't where we can develop some more affordable housing, little a, as in 120 and 140, which are the properties just north of this zone, then there's nowhere else really in the village that will be able to do that. So that's kind of where this came from. But we looked at it and we said, if we allow assisted living, we'll probably get assisted living there.
Ryan, can I ask you something?
Sure.
What is the requisite number of affordable housing in Irvington? So 120 exists, 140 exists, Half Moon exists. There's a co-op just south of Main Street that exists. Until you and Paul Feiner reassessed the Main Street district was fairly affordable until you bumped the taxes up there in order to make people living up on Riverview and up in Legend Hollow.
My taxes actually went up. Thank you. But no, having people pay their fair taxes, I thought was probably something that should happen. But
right, but the people who traditionally lived in the Main Street district, the descendants of civil servants, et cetera, can no longer afford to live there. So you made that change. But I just wonder, what is the number that you've deemed an adequate number of affordable housing?
I think a minimum was 80. I mean, there's been multiple studies about this. There's multiple studies for Westchester County that we need. I think it's 11,000 or something in Westchester County. I would love to add another 15 or 20 in Irvington if we could. I also have a slightly different view of it. I'd love to build houses that cost $800,000. Like those to me would be great. And I think that we have a chance to do that in a place across the street from you.
Now, $800,000, do you consider that affordable or no?
No, that's like kind of the workforce housing almost. That's the immediate, that's like when we look at the 150 or the 120 of AGI, that's what they could afford. Actually the 150, I think it gets up to, it's like $1 million house or a $1.1 million house. That's probably too high, but even that stock, how many under $1 million homes have been built in Irvington in the last 20 years?
So you're saying 6 or 7 times your annual income is affordable?
I'm saying it's moderate income, they consider it. It's all based on formulas.
Yeah, I know it's a formula. I don't think it's a good formula, but I'm just sort of not enthused about the notion that you're charging into this, you know, and the basic push here was from the developer, and now you're just going from, it's kind of like Frogger, the old video game. You're going from this rock to that rock to that rock, and you've just gotten farther and farther away from the character of Irvington. It's like the people who move in here say, "Oh, I love this place," and then go down to the train station to pick up their spouse and shoot up the hill at 40 miles an hour. It's like I love this place so much that I'm gonna change it. So I think you're taking off too fast on this, and you're not involving thought. You just made a quick change on this most recent proposal. So you went from restaurants and hotels and boutiques, and now you're on this tear. It just seems like you guys need Ritalin or something. You need Adderall. You just
So we always had multifamily in this proposal. The thing,
but the thrust now has gone like totally.
Well, we streamlined it for sure, but you know, to me, we weren't getting complaints
I'll
about
say so,
multifamily
especially
housing.
living across the street. Yeah, I'd say you streamlined it all right. There's another word for streamline, but it sort of sounds rushed to me.
Well, it hasn't been passed yet, and it's going to be at least another month of discussions, and then probably another month after that. So I'm glad we're not moving too slowly, because we'd all be dead by the time we close the public hearing.
Brian, can I just clarify one thing?
Sure.
Not to respond to everything you said, but just in terms of the density that's proposed for this, even at its maximum, is almost the same as the density in the other existing multifamily districts. It's sort of how the board settled on what was the right amount of density. And we looked at all of the multifamily projects.
Yeah, as of right, it's actually small. It's actually less dense.
It's of a similar or less density. Certainly, it's about the same as the buildings right next door to it, the 120, 140.
Except there's a giant setback. There's 250-foot setback.
Yeah. No, just in terms of the number of units you could have. Yeah, it's not going to look like that, but it's no denser than any multifamily district in there.
Yeah, but all you're saying, Mary Ann, is
I'm not having a back and forth with you. I just wanted to clarify that one point.
Okay, well, just so you know, Mary Ann, what you're saying is we take the densest place in the village, and then we'll go cover to cover. We'll go wall to wall. We'll go north to south to go east to west, and therefore we haven't gotten any denser than somewhere else in the village. But that the densest place in the village is not the most characteristic necessarily of the village. It's part of the village. And as I say, there was a time when the Main Street district was the densest, but also probably the most affordable at one time when the taxes were lower before this misbegotten reassessment that took place a few years back. But anyway, that's not a good argument, Mary Ann. I wouldn't go that route. For me to say that that the pothole at the end of the driveway is characteristic of my driveway is clearly not characteristic of my entire driveway. Okay.
So you think that the people who live in 120 and 140 are the potholes of Irvington? Got it.
Nice try there, but you're misguided. No, what I'm saying is that the most dense place in the village is not characteristic of the entire village, and that goes without saying. So if you consider the densest place in the village to be, say, characteristic of a more dense community, say a part of Queens or something like that, then driving through Middle Village is not the same as driving through Irvington. So I think you're just way off base with that comment, Brian.
Okay, fair enough. I think you've made your point. Thank you.
I hope you understand it. I'd like you to take it seriously rather than being flip.
No, I don't think, I think we've given this tons of thought and had many, many meetings on it. I don't think.
Oh, yeah, but it's bad thought. That's trouble. There's been a lot of historical bad thought in various times in history. We can all look to them. We all know them, and all this carry on in posturing that goes on and virtue signaling is, if all it does is densify private property for further growth, then you're basically serving the people with these large pieces of property to maximize their returns.
Okay. I definitely understand your point.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Taylor?
Sorry, if I may, Mr. Mayor, just one brief clarification. The Maxon property is by no means opposed to the proposed multifamily use. We just merely want to discuss how the current law fails to address how it would allow the Maxon property and the other 3 properties in the district to be viably and productively redeveloped. So our planner will be assisting us in making those points related to the draft law as it exists specific to the FAR, the unit size, the number of units, and density bonus. So again, we're by no means opposed to the proposed use. We just, of course, supported a number of viable uses after evaluating the comprehensive plan and the uses contemplated therein for the property, which the board spent a great deal of effort evaluating. And of course, as the mayor mentioned, that included assisted living facilities. So I just wanted to clarify.
I would say
we're
too,
by no means opposed.
that to be fair, you guys also didn't ask us to streamline this or to add more density or any of the changes. You were as surprised with the changes as anybody, I think I would say, Taylor.
We would not disagree.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to go on the record that this was not, Taylor Palmer's plan for Irvington. This was the village board's plan for Irvington that you are reacting to and, trying to adapt to as well. So that's all. Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you.
Mr. Bernstein? I think you're on, Peter. You're back muted now, Peter. There you go. Do you want to try dialing in again, Peter?
Yeah. As you said, he's not muted, but it sounds like
Yeah.
the microphone's not working. Mayor, do you want to take a look at the Q&A real quick?
Sure.
And then Peter, if you want to try logging back in, or I'm not sure.
Katarina wrote, what is the urge to have more multifamily housing in Irvington? The inventory of apartments in near vicinity is abundant and diverse. Also many empty apartments in the city at the moment. So why change Irvington is something we did not choose when we moved here not long ago. I would say that I think we've listed many, many reasons for why we'd like to have more affordable housing. I'll give you a couple. To have seniors that want to live here when they can no longer afford a house or they don't need to have a house because their children have moved away. To have more volunteers, to allow people like our school teachers, our police, our firemen to live here, to have more economic diversity, to have more racial diversity, which comes with economic diversity typically. I think we've been over this many times. You try, maybe, I think Peter might be under Sarah now, maybe?
Well, I can try Peter again.
Try Peter first, yeah.
Let me just see here. Yeah, he's not unmuting.
Peter, try to hit Alt A and see if that'll unmute you.
Retry Sarah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. Try them both.
Well, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Now we have your picture under you and your voice under your wife. Perfect.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. I haven't had computer problems upstairs and came downstairs.
No worries.
You know, I almost wasn't going to comment, but then I heard about that you guys were planning to build a Hooverville on North Broadway, and so I felt like that was news to me. So I felt like I better get involved in the conversation before we have a shanty town built in Irvington. But a couple of things I wanted to say. One is, for folks to say you're rushing through this is silly because this has been going on for so long. I'd also, think that a lot of the changes in the uses were due to the input process, the public hearing process. You guys were hearing from neighbors and you responded to the concerns of the neighbors and took those into account. So I would applaud the process and the trustees for that. My difficulty with the proposal now comes with this density incentives for what what's being called moderate income workforce housing. If it's true that the target could produce units costing in excess of 800,000. That to me doesn't represent the kind of jobs, some of which, Brian, you mentioned in your explanation about why we want multifamily housing in that area. I mean, yeah, $800,000 is workforce housing for an associate in a young associate in a law firm, but it's certainly not workforce housing for a nurse married to a public employee. So again, I think density for density's sake, I'm not really that interested in how do we add to the community? Why do we take on density? Now, I would argue it would be to diversify our community more substantially than the 10% set aside does. Even the 10% set aside is difficult to afford at 80% of AMI. A density incentive for someone to sell units at 60% AMI, well, that at least provides something that the market doesn't already provide. So, personally, myself, those who are involved in trying to push for affordable housing around the county, are generally, looking to diversify the projects below the 80% target and add more units below the 80th percentile. And, I know the trustees are going to do more thinking about this. I think it was a mistake to throw the moderate incentive into the language without discussing it first. I think the process, didn't go as I would like to have seen it. You spoke to one side of a solution and took kind of that side's vision of how to make these projects happen without talking to other perspectives about how projects can happen and how communities can enhance truly affordable housing, which is desperately needed. So those are my comments. Again, thanks for listening as you always do so well.
Thank you very much.
I believe you have another Q&A follow-up.
Sure. Also from Katerina, here's one question. How are you supposed to afford all the economic diversity mentioned? You already sponsor about 10% of Irvington's student body who are on financial assistance. This is a large number already. We already pay the highest taxes in Westchester. This is why we have our bills to pay as well as our children to support. I'm afraid that discussed proposal will create a death spiral to the market of single family housing in Irvington. I just don't believe that there'll be that many students created, that it'll be a burden. Yeah, I just don't think that those numbers, that the numbers from a proposal that'll build 60 units of housing will push the Irvington School District over any kind of financial hump. So I just don't think that it's that it's a valid point at this time. We'll be happy to talk to the schools and confirm that with them. But if there's 60 units and we think there's going to be another 10 kids or something, or 5 kids, it's really not going to be a major impact. Anybody else? Otherwise, we will keep this open until the December 7th meeting, when we will hear from David Smith and others, of course. Okay, I will move on to the next, which is an appointment to the Ethics Board. I'd like to thank Connie for finding us another great candidate for the Ethics Board. Resolved to appoint Sarah Kelsey as a member of the Ethics Board for a term to expire December 2025. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Leave that coming at about.
Next, we have approval of a filming permit for 20th Television.
Okay, let me promote at least 2 individuals that I see here. So just give me 2 seconds here. Okay.
Hi there, Larry. I just wanted to see if we could promote Colin Smith as well.
Okay, sure. And I did Ruby as well.
Yes,
He's
thank
on
you.
here. And Colin.
Would it be helpful, Larry, to maybe also add the chief and the lieutenant?
And the chief as well. Yes, I'm about to do that. Okay.
So it looks like they've already gone over a pretty detailed plan. So
Yeah.
Will we be doing the share the screen?
I
Or
don't.
will I need to look back at the printed material?
We didn't orchestrate that, so let me see how they would like to handle it. So I think it would be helpful for the crew to present to the board what it is your plan is and how to deal with this particular location. And if they have questions, I'm sure they'll interrupt and ask, but I don't know who wants to take the lead on it, but anyone?
Hi, I'm Colin. I guess I could take the lead on it. Do you mean for me to speak to what our overall plan is for filming?
Yeah, just give an overview and then, we can get into some specifics. I know there's some concerns about the location, obviously, it's
Right.
not the easiest location in town for sure.
So we needed a particular style of house and a particular angle of a house to do this one scene, and that's the main reason we're there. It's a great house for everything we're doing, but it's a character played by Martin Short, and he's gone to see his son, who's a veterinarian who lives out of town, and to ask him for money because he hasn't had a hit show in a while. So he's gone there, and we have just 3 scenes there. We have some exterior scenes with Tina Fey that we're going to do as well that are a different scene, that are just right by the water source right there in the front yard. Most of it's interior. There's the exterior with Tina Fey, and there is an exterior, which is the main reason why we're there, because we're going to put a staircase coming out. Martin Short leaves the house and he trips on the stairs and he goes up in the air. And we're going to have a crane rig in the driveway that pulls him up and then floats him down the stairs and sets him down. And it's like a fantasy sequence based on a Claire de Lune video. And that's what we're doing there. And then we're gonna redo the big effect on a stage that we've built and for a green screen thing to make the effect look like the fantasy sequence it's supposed to be. while he's falling. So that's really what we're doing there. Obviously, there's not a lot of parking there, so we've been talking to the MTA, and they've agreed to let us use their parking down there. That we're going to rent some spaces from them for our crew. We have a church that we're going to use to put our trucks there, where it has a school. And then we're going to, I believe, rent Hudson Loft. We're going to put our crew, to get ready and to be there with background. And so we really eliminate the number of people around the house because there's not really any parking there per se on the street. It's very tight. So we've also been discussing a lot with the neighbors just to let them know what we're doing, and then also to see if we could work with them for their driveways to be able to do some work there. And everyone seems to be really receptive, and it's been really great to be up there. And there's another house behind us that we're going to be on some of the property that connects to the house where we're filming. And we're going to be working with them as well. So that's where we are right now. I mean, it seems to be, we've had mostly, we've had pretty much positive response from the people around us. And then I think we found a way to work there, because we really can't bring any large trucks or do anything in that area. It's just, it's two one-way streets. I mean, it's a two-way street with no parking on the side. So there's not much we can do, but, park elsewhere and bring what we need in. And thank you for, having us to this meeting as well, by the way. This is exciting for us. We're really excited about, the opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's always helpful when we hear directly from you guys what the plan is, rather than having to get Larry come tell us. And it's obviously it's much more convenient for you now that we're on Zoom. I believe you also met with the police department about the plan and how that would all work. Is that right? You guys already met?
Yeah, Molly has been speaking to your chief on a regular basis, and I think Ruby has met with him as well. But Molly, do you want to speak about the police chief? Because I'm not sure what Ruby looks a little scary right now. Maybe you should talk, Molly.
He's in the dark. Yes, hi everyone. I'm Molly. I'm working with Colin and Ruby on this. And we spoke a little bit because we do have a tech scout tomorrow. And the chief so kindly went through with Ruby and kind of showed us how logistically we'll be able to pull up the bus to let off, our department heads to kind of take a look around the block to kind of really figure out what they have to do to prep for the day of the shoot. Like Colin said, we've been really lucky to have base camp for the prep days and the wrap days and the shoot days at the church, Immaculate Conception. They've been really helpful to us, and we're going to be using them those 4 days. And then the chief and I and Ruby also discussed a couple of positions for a lift, which would be on Woodbine and tucked off the road enough so there's a fire lane. And since it's a dead end, chief has said it, could work out for us. So we're really lucky and grateful that you guys are working with us in that way too.
Maybe I'll turn it over to you, Chief. Do you have any existing concerns after your meetings?
Yeah, just with regard to the lift, you're going to have a licensed operator that's going to operate that lift, I believe, and getting it in there and getting it out and actual use of it while you're doing your filming.
Yeah, so everybody who'll be working there has been certified to operate that machinery. It's part of their union training.
That works for us. The other thing is, how did you make out with MTA with parking?
It was good. Meredith put us through with the guy who handles it. So he got out and reached out to us today and took care of it pretty quick.
All right, so you're covered with parking down there too then. That's good. Okay.
Yeah, it's great.
All
Thank
right.
you for that.
No, you're welcome.
Do we think that that Station Road will have to be closed for any extended periods during filming, or?
We planned on having 2 officers there to assist with traffic flow. Obviously, it's very difficult to close that roadway down. I mean, we have done it in the past, but it's a 1-day shoot. Hopefully, they should be able to get through it with the officers there assisting traffic. Obviously, they'll shut it down as needed when they need to film and allow traffic to flow when they're not filming.
I don't think we're going to really have many sound or picture issues with the traffic. I'll find out tomorrow. I'll ask them, but I'm going to tell them to live with it. You know, it's there's a stream right there, which is like, you know, has a constant sound, and traffic has a really good editable sound to it that's right there, and everyone sort of just kind of goes through. It's not that loud, so hopefully we can, you know, have to work with it to a minimum. And I'll.
Good. That's fine. Just work with the officers. They'll work with you on whatever you need to do.
Okay, great.
So Chief, you don't have any major concerns?
No, as long as the parking was a concern, and that seems to be taken care of, the lift was a concern. And again, they have licensed people to operate it, so I'm basically satisfied. They're also using I believe the IC Church for parking too, and everybody's gonna be shuttled back and forth, so, and with 2 officers on the scene, I feel confident it should be okay.
So I have a couple of questions. I live right next door to where the shooting's going to be. And I noticed that you're starting at 7 o'clock, 3 of the 4 days, and at 6 o'clock on the 4th day. And our standard contract started at 8 o'clock. It's a very narrow street. I'm not sure how much activity is going on. I'm taking a look at the set map that has driveways marked off that are going to be used, I guess, for storage, or are they going to be used for storage of vehicles, or just for vehicles to be making U-turns and turning around, because the street is so narrow that, you know, there's going to be a lot of turning going on. And one other comment I would just make is I'm looking at the addresses on the driveway maps, and I see my house being misidentified as a driveway that's being used, and certainly no one has asked me to use my driveway. So I just want to make sure, you know, I don't know, you know, if someone's going to be there tomorrow, perhaps we could get that straightened out.
Yeah, that sounds like something we should take care of. Yeah, sorry about that.
Well, no, it's okay. I just want to make sure if something's going to be parked in my driveway, that,
No, of course.
That my car is, you know, is moved. And I guess another question I have is, you know, if all these driveways are being used, and then Woodbine is going to have a lift truck on it, which is quite commonly a street that people's excess cars are parked on. You know, is there going to be no park? You know, Chief, do you know? Is there going to be no parking of private cars?
There'll be no parking on the east side of Woodbine Road, obviously because of the size of the lift. But they'll be able to park either behind it or wherever they need to park it for their shot. They'll be parking either in front or behind, I believe, for private, or up the street towards the end of the street. They'll be parked. But directly across from where the vehicle is parked, there's going to be no parking.
Right. I mean, my comment is there's commonly, you know, during the day, probably 5 cars parked on Woodbine, on the east side of Woodbine, pretty much every day. And that's not counting cars of residents whose driveways are going to be used and will have to leave their cars somewhere else for them to be able to get in and out of wherever they're going. You know, I'm just assuming that you guys have got this planned out, and you know, I guess because no one asked me to use my driveway, I didn't get a chance to ask that question.
Well, first of all, I apologize. You know, we want to make sure, not just about the driveway, but just to make sure that we've contacted everyone close by. So this is good, because there's usually always seems to be somehow we miss someone. So I'm very glad.
Oh, no. I knew of the shooting, and you know, Lisa's a friend, and we just talked to her on Saturday about it. So we got some details, and but again, I just want to make sure that, you know, I know it's going to be disruptive, and we've lived through, you know, plenty of disruption in the last couple of years, you know, on Station Road. But you know, I just want to make sure it's minimal.
Yeah, definitely. And then we're also, you know, we're taking a good amount of parking, not just for our crew, but to allow the people who we're working with to have a place to put their car. And anyone else who, you know, we don't want anyone to be displaced or have anyone have a difficult time getting to or from anywhere. So we want to make sure that, you know, everyone has an option. And then if people have a need for their car to absolutely be somewhere, then they should keep it there, you know. we don't want to disrupt anybody's daily life.
So Molly, I'll just mention, if you're going to be here tomorrow, what you guys have marked as 49 Station Road is my house, which is 55 Station Road. And
I
what you have
see.
marked as 47 is 49.
I see.
And I can't speak to the other ones. I'm assuming, I don't know if they're right or not, but
I apologize about that.
no, it's okay. It's all right. I'm just mentioning that, if you guys are going to be around tomorrow, just so there's no
Oh,
surprise.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll come around tomorrow, and maybe we'll do a little map work and get that straightened out.
So I have a couple of questions too, once Larry, you're done.
I'm done for now. I mean, if I have particular questions, we can talk about it tomorrow.
You're more involved than any of the rest of us, at least on this board. Has anyone discussed, and I don't know exactly what the COVID situation is with the kids going to Dow's Lane School, but there would be kids normally walking in that area to get to school. Is that a concern that there are kids walking on Station Road and trying to get to Dow's Lane School?
Well, the sidewalk is across on the other side of the street, which helps.
Right,
it's
and
nice
there's
to
police officers assigned.
Right.
So,
Right,
yeah.
Larry, that was good planning, putting the sidewalk on that side of the street.
Thank you. I'll take the compliment.
And the other thing is about noise. Maybe you discussed that a little bit, or I missed it, but maybe you've discussed it with all the neighbors. But we found over the years that with all the best intentions by our wonderful film companies, sometimes something gets left out and we have a very irate person who responds like, why didn't anybody tell me? Or this went on longer, or this was way noisier than I expected. So does the lift create noise? Once it's up, it's just up. It's just a static thing, right?
Yeah, the lift goes up. It's a scissor lift, and
Yeah.
once it extends, it goes up, and the lights are on it, and then the lights are shining on a particular scene. It's the outdoor scene mainly that we're doing with Tina Fey, and then they put a wrap around the lights, so the lights are only shining where we want them to be, and they don't bleed out. Then we usually, if we need to, we'll put a tint around the light on the lift so that it's completely covered if we need to. And then the only thing that would make any noise is really, we have a camera crane, but it's so silent. It moves very quietly because, it's used around a camera, so we have to record sound. So it doesn't really have any noise. I think it's more us, it's the crew. That's the problem. And the one thing that, we do have with the COVID issues that you were talking about is we have fewer people than we normally have. And there's fewer people on set and at the house that can be there. And then the people who are going to be working there, we have to wear we all have face masks we wear. We have to have face shields on where we're filming with all the actors. The house, if we're in the house, we have to wear our mask and our face shield. And whenever we're around, we have to have, mask covering at the minimum or face shields around the rest. So I think that the lift is up, doesn't really make any noise. And I think it's just usually us that causes a lot of the noise. And I think the fewer people will help a lot. And then this isn't the kind of scene that we don't have many scenes this day. It should go pretty quickly. And, we just have the one stunt piece we have to do. And that's really the big part of it. And then we don't have very long days anymore because we do have to do a lot of preparations in the morning and the evening, and cleaning and sanitizing our equipment and, taking care of everything. So it's kind of eliminated us having very long days anymore because we have so much other work to do because of it. So it should be, I feel confident in saying it's not going to be a very late or loud shoot or anything that goes wrong. But I think to your point of making sure that we get in touch with everyone, I think, we have a few days left for sure, a few weeks to get in touch with everyone else around there and just make sure everyone has our numbers, knows what's going on. has been contacted, and if they have any concerns, we can address them.
Colin, just one last question I have. How late do you plan on going on night shoot?
Molly, does our permit go until 9? Or our permit request go until 9?
Believe so. Let me just pull it up.
Yeah, on the shoot day, it's 6 a.m., 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Right.
You'll
And I
be
can
able to
confirm tomorrow. If I can ask them to err on the side of like 7 instead of 6 or something like that, I'll see if I can, do that. That's usually more, it's not when we start filming. It's just like when people will actually, show up because the actors have to do makeup and things like that.
Right.
The crew will get the set ready,
So
but
going
we
tonight,
don't really.
will you be wrapping up by 10 or will you be wrapped up by 9? I mean, and ready to go out of there by 9?
Yeah, we should be getting out of there by 9 and going back to the school where they're going to load back up the trucks.
Okay, thank you.
So the early morning, when you say 6, I mean, that was a little bit of a whoops. Normally that's kind of early for projects like this, I think. But I mean, if in fact that's the start time and all the neighbors are fine with it and you're really not doing a whole lot of loud things at 6, I don't expect we'll get a whole lot of phone calls about it. So I'm just trying to check and avoid these things that sometimes.
No, for sure. I'll do due diligence on that, and I'll leave it at 6 for now. But if I can get them to pull it back to 7, then I'll try to do that tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, I have to say it's a heck of a cast, and I was actually one of the producers of It's Only a Play, and Martin Short was everybody's favorite, so he's like the best guy to deal with. So, any other questions? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and I'll make a motion to approve the film permit. If I can have a second, I guess I could read the whole thing for you, Larry. Hang on. Resolved to approve a filming permit for 20th Century Silver Cup Studios North for filming at 63 Station Road, Irvington, New York on Tuesday, December 8th, prep day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Wednesday, December 9th, prep day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Thursday, December 10th, film day from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And Friday, December 11th, wrap day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. with a fee of $4,000. So I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well, good luck, guys.
Thank you so much.
You as well.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Goodbye. Now we're up to reports of boards, standing committees, and officers. Trustee liaison reports. The very, very quiet Mark Gilliland.
Yeah, hi. I have nothing to add, nothing new to say tonight.
Okay. Larry Lonke.
The executive committee of the IS grant will be held tomorrow at 8 a.m. It's a virtual meeting. Irvington Woods Committee will hold its November meeting this Thursday night, November 19th at 7 p.m. We're looking for individuals interested in helping to remove invasive vines and shrubs during the early part of December. Please contact Joe Archino if you'd like to help. The greening of the village for the holiday season will start on Monday, November 30th. Anyone interested in assisting the Parks Department and the Beautification Committee is urged to help out. The tree lighting will occur on Saturday night, December 5th at 5 p.m. Details to follow. The 2020 Adult Softball League was completed last week. It was a challenge, but all games were played. Special thanks to Mike DiNardo for pushing through to get the league completed. Senior food and supply delivery program is still going strong. This week, the PBA will be delivering a hot breakfast to all of the seniors on our list. And this comes at a great time as the rec staff and volunteers will be transitioning all our supplies and equipment to the senior center in preparation for Thanksgiving. As we mentioned earlier, there is still time to make donations to the Thanksgiving Day event or to sign up to make a delivery. Contact Joe for that as well. We started indoor classes at the O'Hara Nature Center. Music with Mark and youth dance started 2 weeks ago. Lego classes will start. It's wonderful to have the building open and lots of special certifications have gone on in terms of planning, in terms of ventilation. As cold weather makes its way, we need to start closing down bathrooms in Scenic Hudson and Memorial Parks. Scenic Hudson bathrooms will close in a day or so, and Memorial will close in about a week. And last of all, social distancing is still required in all village parks, and masks or face coverings are required. We're still having problems with the public walking in the right direction and wearing masks when required, especially true in Scenic Hudson Park. We need everyone to do their part. Thanks.
Okay. Well, I'll just make my usual plea to check the theater's website, the Irvington Theater, because they are continuing to have virtual programs, and a lot of them are great. There's I see someone may make a comment about this. It's not exactly a village committee, but the Irvington Landmarks Group has been working on the mile marker on Broadway, the Ben Franklin mile marker, and that's a plaque that's in the works. And that's my report.
Great, thank you. Janice?
So the fire department has been, just wanted us to know that they've sent communication to everybody in the department about member safety, apparatus response, qualifying questions, making sure before anybody in the department enters a house or facility to ask whether or not anyone is sick or has been in contact, cleaning protocols and training and meetings. The in-person trainings that are going on in the firehouse are very much according to seating arrangements, wearing masks, social distancing, make sure that everybody remains safe. Also, the fire department purchased a Clorox 360 disinfectant machine, and Jimmy and Jeff Ruffler are spraying village buildings, including the IFD, the IPD, Village Hall, Rec Department, Library, and IVAC. And I know that they recently were in the library, which was very much appreciated since the library was used as a polling place during the election. There was a real need to get the restrooms sanitized. So that was extremely helpful. In terms of the library, contactless pickup of holds has proven such popular service. They'll be adding appointment slots. Children's Zoom story times also extremely popular. And because they're not limited by the space of the children's storeroom, they can accommodate more kids. For adults, the discovery of a new nation, Native Americans in the beginning of the United States, will be presented Tuesday, November 17th at 7. And the Thursday evening book club will be meeting November 19th. This month's book is The Dutch House by Ann Patchett. All of the information about these and other programs can be found on the Irvington Library website, irvingtonlibrary.org. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That me next?
Yes, your village administrators report, Larry.
So just briefly, I've been meeting with each of the department heads to discuss plans to alter our staffing over the next few months. I'll be sharing some additional details with the board on that a little bit later, but suffice it to say that it's an attempt to reduce the number of interactions we have amongst our employees, still get our work done, and reduce the odds and the chances of becoming quarantined. Of course, becoming sick, that's an overriding factor, but really the quarantine factor, could render an entire department unavailable if not planned out properly. So we've been having a lot of conversations about that over the last week or 10 days or so, and we'll make announcements on some of that. But I don't expect it to affect services. I mean, that's our goal, is to not change how the services are delivered, just how we function and interact with each other. The other item was I did meet with Joe Archino, Rick Rizzullo, and Mark Galgano down at the Senior Center today. And we spent a good amount of time trying to map out exactly how to prepare, package, and get deliveries of the Thanksgiving meals. It's not a fun get together, feel good kind of a thing. It's basically trying to get in, get it done, and get out safely with as few people as possible, and many more meals than we've done in the past, it looks like. So it's going to be quite an operation, but I think we have a pretty good plan that we have in place. So that's encouraging. That's it.
Great. Village Clerk Treasurer?
I have two things. One is in order to finance the village capital budget, we're issuing a bond anticipation note. The term sheet for that goes out tomorrow. I'll get the bids back in 1 week. And speaking to our financial advisors, the rates have been very favorable on any of the borrowing, especially the bands. So I can let you know next week when we get them back how the village did. Also, we've completed our village audit and received our final written report today. We'll be presenting to the board in December with our auditors, just how the village did. I'll give you an overview of that. So we'll have the report ready. We'll be sending it to you electronically, or you can pick it up as well in Village Hall. We'll have copies ready.
Great. Village Attorney's report?
No report.
Public comment?
I don't see any hands up, but I do see there was a comment in the Q&A.
I appreciate the fact that mask wearing and walking in the correct direction in the parks. It's disappointing that during the Trump rally, people were allowed to walk around Main Street without masks and park wherever they wanted. I also think it's disappointing that the Trump rally didn't have masks. I don't have anything else to say. Hopefully it's the last of the Trump rallies, maskless or otherwise. But any other public comment? Otherwise, review of action items. I didn't have any.
I didn't have any either. I did ask, and I know it's not on the agenda, but I did ask the board if they would consider going to executive session regarding a personnel matter and actually police department staffing is the topic.
I will make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you. And you have the separate link for the executive session, correct?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
Thanks everyone for tuning in tonight. Have a
Thank
good
you. Good night.
night.
Bye, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.
Good Thanksgiving.
You too.
You don't need me at the executive session, right?
No, we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.